was sitting at my desk when Harold walked over with that look on his face. The one that meant he was about to embarrass someone. It was Tuesday morning and the whole team was watching. Harold was our department manager, the kind of boss who needed an audience for everything he did. He'd been at the company for 12 years, climbing the ladder with a smile and a handshake, leaving broken dreams in his wake. I'd been here for 5 years, longer than most in my position, and I'd watched him do this to people before. But I never thought it would happen to me. He leaned against my desk, arms crossed, and looked down at the spreadsheet I'd been working on for 3 hours straight. The numbers were perfect. I'd verified them twice, even 3 times if I'm being honest. I'd been thorough. Always was. "This is sloppy," he announced loud enough for everyone to hear. My stomach dropped. I triple-checked those numbers. The numbers showed our quarterly performance accurately. They weren't what Harold probably wanted them to show, but they were the truth. "Did you even look at this before sending it to me?" he continued, shaking his head like I was a disappointment. His voice was dripping with condescension. "You're lucky to have this job, you know. There are hundreds of people who would do better." The office went completely silent. I could feel faces turning toward us. Some people pretended to work. Others just stared. Marcus from 2 desks over looked up with sympathetic eyes. Priya bit her lip, uncomfortable. My cheeks burned hot. I wanted to argue, to tell him I'd checked every single line, to explain my methodology, to defend myself with facts and figures. But I'd learned that fighting back only made things worse. So I just nodded. I could feel tears forming, but I held them back. I wouldn't give him the satisfaction. Harold walked away satisfied, having gotten his audience, having reminded everyone who held the power in this department. His footsteps echoed as he turned the corner toward his office. As he disappeared, my phone buzzed. A message from HR. "Can you come to our office right now? It's important." My heart stopped. What now? What else could possibly happen? I took the elevator to the 3rd floor with my heart pounding. My hands felt shaky as I knocked on the HR office door. Inside, a woman named Monica sat behind a desk covered with papers and file folders. She smiled at me, but it wasn't a warm smile. It was the kind of smile people give when they're about to discuss something serious, something delicate. I'd seen that smile before, during layoff season last year. "Please sit down," she said quietly, gesturing to the chair across from her. I sat, trying to figure out what was happening. Was this about the incident with Harold? Was this about something else? Monica folded her hands together carefully. "I wanted to ask you something personal. Do you feel safe in your role? Do you feel supported by your manager? Have you experienced any incidents that made you uncomfortable at work?" The questions caught me off guard. They were specific. They weren't general HR questions. Someone had complained. Someone had said something. I didn't know how to answer. My mind raced through possible scenarios. Before I could speak, Monica continued, her voice dropping slightly. "The board has been reviewing department performance, and they've requested all the original data files you manage. They want to see them tomorrow morning. They mentioned your name specifically, which is unusual." She leaned back in her chair, watching my reaction carefully. "They want originals, not copies. They want to verify authenticity. This is significant." My breath caught. The board never requested files directly. The board had their own channels. This meant something was wrong. This meant someone was investigating. That night I couldn't sleep. I kept thinking about Monica's question and the board request. I lay in bed staring at the ceiling, my mind spinning with possibilities. Something wasn't right. I decided to check my email archive, the files I'd backed up to my personal computer months ago just in case. I'd always been careful, always protective of my work. Found it. An email from 2 weeks ago that I never remembered seeing. It was from Harold, and he'd altered numbers in one of my reports. The original data said our department missed targets by 15%. His version said we only missed by 3%. He changed my work without telling me. Without asking permission. Without any authorization. My hands started shaking as I read through more emails. The pattern became clear. He was systematically modifying my reports. Then I found something worse. A project I'd been assigned to for months. A major initiative that I'd poured my heart into. I was removed from it. Replaced. No notification. No explanation. Just gone from the team list. I was replaced by someone named Kevin, a guy who'd been at the company for only 3 months. The implications hit me hard. He was setting me up. Harold was setting me up to take the fall for something. I saved everything to an encrypted drive I'd bought specifically for this purpose, my fingers moving fast. This was bigger than I thought. This was deliberate. Someone wasn't just being mean anymore. Someone was constructing a narrative. Someone was building a case against me, piece by piece, and I had no idea until now. The realization made me feel cold and alone in my apartment. The next morning, I was getting coffee when James from accounting grabbed my arm gently. His face was pale, worried. "Don't go anywhere near Harold today," he whispered, looking over his shoulder nervously. "He's been talking to people about bringing in someone new. He keeps saying the department needs fresh energy. He's looking for your replacement." My coffee cup nearly slipped from my hand. James looked nervous, like he shouldn't have told me but felt obligated to warn me anyway. We'd worked together for 3 years. He was a good person. "There's more," he added quietly, glancing over his shoulder toward the break room entrance. "Yesterday I walked past his office and he was on the phone. He said, 'She's disposable. Nobody will notice if she's gone.'" James left before I could respond, not wanting to be seen talking to me. I stood frozen in the break room, holding my cold coffee. Disposable. That word stuck to me like poison. I'd worked here for 5 years. I'd stayed late countless times to finish projects on deadline. I'd helped this company grow through difficult quarters. I'd mentored new employees. I'd been reliable, consistent, professional. And now I was disposable. The words echoed in my head all day like a curse. I replayed them over and over during meetings, during lunch, during every moment I saw Harold walking through the office like he owned the place. He did own this place, at least in his mind. I drove home during lunch and found my mom in the kitchen preparing her afternoon medication. She was having a rough day with her arthritis, her hands shaking slightly as she opened the pill bottles. I'd been paying her medical bills for 2 years now. The arthritis medication alone cost $600 a month. Her physical therapy sessions were another $400. Without this job, I didn't know what she'd do. I helped her take her pills and sat beside her at the kitchen table. "Mom, I need to talk to you about something." I told her everything. About Harold, the humiliation in the office, the altered numbers I'd discovered, James's warning, the replacement plans. My mom listened without interrupting, her aged hands resting on the table. When I finished, she reached over and squeezed my hand. "Don't let him destroy you," she said quietly, her voice carrying the weight of experience. "I know you're scared. I know this job means everything to us. But letting a person like that break you would be worse than losing the job." Her words hit different. She was right. I wasn't just fighting for myself. I was fighting for her too. Her medical bills depended on my income. Her future depended on my stability. But more than that, she was reminding me of something I'd forgotten. Had power too. Not the kind Harold had, but real power. The power to be smart, to be careful, to gather truth. The power to think strategically instead of reacting emotionally. That afternoon I made a choice. I wasn't going to react with anger. I wasn't going to confront Harold or cry or panic. Instead, I was going to think like a strategist. If Harold wanted to play this game, I needed to play smarter, faster, and more carefully than he ever could. I went to the electronics store after work and bought an encrypted backup drive. It cost $90, but it was worth every penny. I set it up that night, making sure nothing could trace it back to my work computer. I created passwords using my birthday, my mom's name, important dates. I organized folders by date and time, creating a system that would hold up to scrutiny. Every piece of evidence I collected would be documented with precision. No emotion. No reactions. Just facts. Cold hard facts. I created a spreadsheet documenting every suspicious action I could remember. Column headers included date, time, action, witnesses, evidence. I filled it in carefully. I looked at myself in the mirror before bed. I barely recognized the expression on my face. It was calm, focused, ready, determined. Tomorrow I would start collecting everything systematically. My strategy was forming like a chess game. Harold had made his opening move by humiliating me. Now it was my turn to plan 3 moves ahead. For 2 weeks I was invisible. Not in my work but in my behavior. I smiled when Harold passed. I nodded when he gave instructions. I never showed frustration or fear. But I was watching everything with laser focus. Every email got saved to my encrypted drive. Every conversation I had with coworkers was written down with timestamps, including exact quotes. Every instruction Harold gave me, I followed perfectly and documented it. I created spreadsheets tracking when he gave orders, how he phrased them, what the outcomes were, whether other people heard them. I even started keeping a personal journal with detailed observations. Then one afternoon he called me into his office. His desk was organized in a specific way, everything in its place. There was a photo of his family on the corner, smiling in a way that made me wonder if they knew who he really was. "I need you to revise this report," he said, handing me a folder. "Change these numbers here and here. Make them look better." Better. What a word. He meant make them look false. My heart raced, but my face stayed calm. I'd prepared for this moment. "Sure," I said carefully. "Can you send me that instruction in writing? Just for my records." Harold hesitated for just a moment, his eyes narrowing. Then he typed an email and sent it to me. The words were right there, clear as day. Revise numbers as discussed to improve appearance of quarterly results. I thanked him and left, my heart pounding with what I'd just accomplished. I'd gotten him to put his request in writing. That email was the biggest gift Harold could have given me. It was everything I needed. Written proof that he was asking me to falsify data. I forwarded it to my encrypted drive immediately, making multiple backup copies on different devices. Over the next week, I started gently asking for more things in writing. Harold, annoyed at what he probably thought was my new obsession with documentation, kept sending emails. Each one was another brick in the wall. I even asked for his approval on small decisions through email just to build a pattern. And he gave it to me. Every single time. He was so confident in his power that he never thought to question why I suddenly wanted everything documented. He thought I was being careful. He thought I was protecting myself from blame. He never realized I was building a case against him, piece by piece, email by email. By the end of the week, I had 17 documented emails showing his improper requests. I organized them chronologically, highlighting the key phrases. I printed them out and stored them in a waterproof folder at my apartment. This was my insurance policy. This was my defense. I started talking to other people quietly, not gossiping, just listening. I was careful about who I approached and how. James from accounting had already warned me, but there were others. A woman named Priya who worked in my department mentioned one day, very carefully, "Harold has a way of making people feel small." She said it while we were getting lunch from the vending machine, casual enough that nobody would think we were discussing anything serious. Then she added something important. "He's done this before. To other people. He gets them removed, then makes himself look better." When I asked her what she meant, she handed me a folder the next day. Inside were performance reviews from people who used to work in our department. All of them had glowing reviews before they worked with Harold. Reviews that said, "excellent attention to detail," and "exceeds expectations." After working with him, their reviews became mediocre. Reviews that said, "needs improvement," and "could try harder." One person even had a review that said, "lacks initiative," but I knew that person had worked 80-hour weeks. I'd seen their computer logged in past midnight many times. Priya had kept these files because she was worried the same thing would happen to her. Now she was giving them to me. Be careful, she whispered. He's more dangerous than people realize. On a Wednesday morning, an email appeared in my inbox that made me sit up straight. My hands actually trembled as I read it. It was from someone named Alessandra, a board member. She was the head of the audit committee. The email said, "We would like to review all original data files from your department. Please bring them to our office tomorrow at 9 in the morning. Bring originals, not copies. We will be conducting a thorough audit." I read it 5 times, my mind racing. The board. They wanted the files. They wanted originals. This was it. This was the moment everything might change. This was bigger than I'd imagined. But that afternoon something else happened. I tried to access the shared folder where I kept all the department data. Access denied. The red notification appeared on my screen like a warning. Harold had cut my server access. My heart started racing. He was making a move. He was reacting to something. But then I realized something crucial. It didn't matter. I had everything backed up on my encrypted drive. I was prepared. I'd anticipated this exact scenario. I planned for it. I went home and opened my encrypted drive with shaking hands. Everything was there. Every file. Every email. Every document. Every number from every report we'd ever submitted. I copied everything onto a flash drive and labeled it carefully with a label maker. Original files. Dated and verified. The label looked official. That night I couldn't sleep. I kept thinking about what would happen next. Harold had made his biggest mistake. He'd cut my access, which meant he was panicking. When someone panics, they make errors. They move too fast. They forget details. And Harold was about to make a very public one. The next morning, I arrived at the board office with my flash drive in my pocket and my heart in my throat. Alessandra's office was on the top floor, overlooking the entire city. When I walked in, she was standing by the window. I handed the drive to her and explained what Harold had done. I showed her screenshots of the access denial. I showed her the email where he asked me to alter numbers. I showed her the timeline of events. I showed her everything carefully and methodically. Alessandra's face changed as she looked through the files. Her expression shifted from curiosity to concern to something harder. "This is significant," she said quietly, looking up from her screen. "This is very significant." She thanked me and told me I could go back to my office. For the rest of the day, nothing happened. The silence was deafening. I sat at my desk pretending to work, but my mind was racing. Then, around 4 o'clock, Harold returned to the office looking furious. His face was red. His hands were clenched. He called HR and screamed about something. His voice carrying through the office walls. I could hear him from my desk, though not every word. He was accusing me of being a data thief, and of sabotaging the company. That evening, Monica from HR asked to see me again. This time she had a different expression. She'd seen the files. She knew the truth. "Just sit tight," she told me calmly. "Don't say anything to anyone. We're handling this." She leaned forward and added, her voice quiet, "You did the right thing. I hope you know that." The next few days were strange and isolating. Co-workers stopped making eye contact with me. They'd talk in groups and then stop when I walked by. At lunch, people who usually sat with me suddenly had other plans. They'd make excuses or avoid the break room entirely. I knew what was happening. Word was spreading through the office like wildfire. People were choosing sides, and they were choosing Harold's. He was powerful. He was established. I was the unknown quantity, the potential troublemaker. On Thursday, Priya pulled me aside in the bathroom, checking that we were alone. "Don't come to work tomorrow," she whispered urgently. "Harold's planning something for Friday. He's trying to get you fired by end of business. He's telling the CEO that you stole data and manipulated files." My stomach dropped. They were moving faster than I expected. The timeline had accelerated, but I had already moved faster than they knew. I thanked Priya quietly and made a mental note to protect her as well. That night, I couldn't resist. I went back to the office around 11 o'clock when the building was almost empty. Only the cleaning crew moved through the hallways. I used my keycard to enter. My access hadn't been completely cut. The building was silent. My footsteps echoed. I walked to Harold's office. The door was unlocked, which was strange. Inside, I could see him standing at his desk with a document shredder. He was feeding papers into it one by one, watching them disappear. My blood went cold. He was destroying evidence. Actual evidence. I pulled out my phone and started recording from the hallway. I filmed him shredding documents. His face clearly visible in the office light, the shredder clearly visible, the papers clearly visible going into the machine. Legal. Completely legal. I had everything I needed. When he finished and left his office, I slipped away quietly, my phone burning in my pocket. I had video evidence of him destroying documents. The next morning I got an email that James accidentally forwarded to me. It was supposed to go to Harold. It was a draft announcement about promotions. I scrolled through it quickly, my heart sinking with each name I read. There were 5 names on the promotion list. Harold's name was there twice. Kevin's name was there. Other people's names were there. But my name was nowhere. Not anywhere. This was the proof of the plan. They weren't just going to fire me. They were going to promote my replacement and pretend I never existed. I read through the announcement carefully, looking for any mention of my departure or my work being transitioned. Nothing. It was as if I'd never existed. I forwarded the email to my encrypted backup and deleted it from my regular inbox. I created a screenshot with a timestamp embedded. I saved it to 3 different locations. Then I did something important. I stopped responding to every situation with stress and worry. Instead, I became completely calm. I'd made my decision. Whatever happened next, I was ready. I had everything I needed. I had proof. I had documentation. I had the truth on my side. I went to work on Monday with my head held high. People stared at me like I was supposed to be falling apart. But I wasn't. I smiled at people I passed. I did my work carefully. I was pleasant to everyone, including Harold. He seemed confused by my demeanor. He'd expected me to panic. He'd expected me to crack. Instead, I was serene. By Wednesday, an email arrived in everyone's inbox. Mandatory meeting. Thursday at 2 o'clock. All department heads and relevant staff. Boardroom on floor 5. Harold opened this email while walking past my desk. His face went pale. He definitely wasn't expecting a mandatory board meeting. His hands looked shaky. That afternoon, I watched him make phone calls behind closed doors. His silhouette visible through the frosted glass. I watched him look nervous. I watched him try to appear confident when he left his office, but I could see the cracks forming. He was falling apart. And I was ready. On Thursday morning, Harold approached me at my desk. He was different. Smiling. Actually smiling like we were old friends. "Hey, I wanted to apologize about the other day," he said, sitting on the edge of my desk in a casual way. "I've been under a lot of stress and I took it out on you. That wasn't fair." This was it. This was him trying to butter me up before the meeting. This was desperation. This was fear showing through the cracks. He was scrambling now, trying every angle to salvage what he could. "It's okay," I said, smiling back genuinely. "Everyone has tough days." He looked relieved. He actually thought his charm could fix this. He had no idea what was about to happen. He had no idea that everything he'd done was documented. "See you in the boardroom," he added. "We'll get through this together." He nodded. I didn't tell him that together was the opposite of what was about to happen. That afternoon I dressed carefully. Professional. Serious. Ready. I wore my best suit, the navy one with the white blouse. I wanted to look polished. I wanted to look credible. I wanted to look like someone who'd done nothing wrong. The night before the board meeting, I checked my files one more time. Everything was organized. Everything was clear. I had one last card to play. That morning, I discovered that Harold had deleted the shared folder. The entire project folder with all the original data was gone. Just deleted. He was erasing everything he could. But I already knew he would do this because I understood how his mind worked. He was panicked and desperate. And desperate people make obvious moves. 2 hours later, Alessandra from the board sent an email to Harold asking for that exact folder. The folder he'd just deleted. Harold's silence was deafening. His reply never came. He couldn't produce what he'd destroyed. This was the moment he sealed his own fate. An hour before the meeting, I walked into HR. Monica was there, looking serious. I handed her a flash drive. "This contains all the original files from the shared folder," I said. "The files that are no longer accessible on the server. These are verified originals with timestamps." Monica took the drive and looked at me carefully. "You know this is going to be intense, right?" she said quietly. I nodded. "Yes." She leaned closer. "Don't leave the building today. No matter what happens, don't leave. We might need you for documentation." I understood what she was really saying. This was going to be big. Everything was about to change. I was about to change everything. She squeezed my hand briefly. "You've been very brave," she whispered. The boardroom doors opened at exactly 2 o'clock. I sat down at one end of a long table. My hands were steady. My breathing was calm. Harold came in 5 minutes later, confident in his expensive suit and his expensive watch. He carried a leather briefcase. He sat across from me, his eyes not quite meeting mine. I could see the calculation in his gaze, trying to figure out what I might say. Then the board members filed in. Alessandra was there. The CEO was there. Other executives I didn't recognize were there. The door closed quietly behind them. For a moment nothing happened. The silence was heavy. Then Alessandra spoke. "We've discovered significant irregularities in this department's reporting," she said. Harold's face went pale. His jaw tightened. Before he could respond, she continued. "We've also discovered evidence of document destruction and unauthorized data alteration." Harold stood up. "This is ridiculous," he said loudly. "Someone's been sabotaging me. Someone's been stealing data." Alessandra looked directly at him. "We've seen the evidence. All of it." I stood up slowly and walked to the front of the boardroom. Everyone watched me. I felt Harold's eyes on me like fire, but I didn't look at him. I connected my laptop to the projector carefully, making sure the connection was secure. My hands remained steady even though my heart was racing. Alessandra nodded at me to proceed. I took a deep breath. This was the moment. Everything I'd collected. Everything I'd documented. Everything I'd saved. Now it was all going to come out. My hands were steady. My voice was calm. I was ready. Clicked the first slide. I started with the emails. I showed the board every message where Harold asked me to alter numbers. I showed them the timestamps. I showed them his written instructions. I read them aloud so there was no confusion. Then I showed them the video. The footage of Harold shredding documents late at night. His face clearly visible. His intent unmistakable. The boardroom went completely silent. You could hear people breathing. I showed them the performance reviews of people who'd left our department before me. I showed them the pattern. I explained the similarities. Then I showed them the deletion of the shared folder and the promotion draft where my name didn't appear. Every piece of evidence. Organized. Clear. Undeniable. The CEO's expression turned darker with each slide. The CEO turned to Harold. "Do you have any explanation?" Harold's face had turned gray. His mouth opened and closed like he was trying to speak but couldn't find words. He tried to say something but nothing came out. His hands gripped the table. Alessandra looked at the other board members. They exchanged glances. The CEO shook his head slightly. Then she spoke. "We're terminating your employment effective immediately. Security will escort you out." Harold jumped up. "You can't do this," he shouted. "This is illegal. I'll sue." But security was already at the door. 2 officers came in and walked him out. He was screaming about lawyers and injustice, but nobody was listening. The door closed behind him, and he was gone forever. The room felt different once he left. Lighter somehow, like a weight had been lifted. The CEO turned to me and stood up. Every board member stood up. "Thank you," the CEO said quietly. "Your integrity saved this company from serious problems. We'd like to offer you the project that was hidden from you. We'd also like to discuss a significant promotion." Alessandra smiled at me. "You've earned more than a thank you. You've earned respect." I felt tears forming, but this time they were different. They were tears of relief and validation. That evening, Monica pulled me aside in the hallway. "The board wants to offer you a new position," she said. "Department manager. Double your current salary. Benefits expansion. Stock options. You start Monday." I couldn't speak for a moment. My entire career had just transformed. Everything I'd worked for was finally coming true. "They also want to know if you'll be interested in joining the audit committee," Monica added. "They want someone with your eye for detail." I walked out of that building as the sun was setting. The air felt different on my skin. Lighter. Cleaner. I called my mom and told her everything. I could hear her smiling through the phone. "I'm so proud of you," she said. "I always knew you could do this." The next day, I used my signing bonus to pay off her medical bills for 6 months in advance. I got promoted on Monday to a role I'd earned through strategy and truth, not politics and fear. Harold tried to get other jobs in our industry, but people started asking questions about why he was fired. His reputation spread. Doors started closing for him. He disappeared from the industry completely. And I walked into my new office with my head high, knowing I won not by fighting dirty, but by staying clean. I won by being smarter. I won by being stronger. I won by believing in myself when nobody else would. The lessons I learned were simple but powerful. Document everything. Stay calm under pressure. Never let someone else write your story. And always believe that the truth will eventually find the light. This wasn't just about me anymore. This was about every person who'd ever been underestimated. This was about proving that integrity matters. This was about showing that sometimes, the best revenge is success built on truth.